Greetings, YouTube. This is the Garage Autonomist. Welcome to Open Open Mic Night Thursdays. Tonight, I'm going to talk about. I haven't really given y'all like a shoot the shit session in a while. So tonight's session is going to be about me talking about why I fucking hated the Deadpool movie so much, and then I'm going to go into why I think movies suck in general. But of course, this is nothing too. Uh, light. There's not too much I'm going to be bringing the light on this. I think deep down, a lot of us know that a lot of movies out here suck. But we go anyway. So I'm just going to see if we can try to delve into some thinking on as to why we go and why we spend the money that we spend. And then hopefully, if I have enough time, because I've already started this live cast a little bit late, so I'm just gonna go ahead and end it a little bit later. So I'm gonna, be on here for about an hour or so. If I have enough time, I'm just gonna talk about alternatives and things that we probably should be doing instead of giving Hollywood our money. See here. Okay. Now, let me just start off and say that based on the announcement video for this hangout, I realized that I said that I picked up the Deadpool comics for the first time back in early 2000s. And it made it sound like that was the first comic book I had ever read, which is not true. My mother had introduced me to comic books back in 1974 when we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. She used to read comic books as a kid herself. She liked Archie. And she did get into Spider-Man when she was pregnant with me, and she liked the Spider-Man cartoon after I was born. I guess at the time when she was still trying to finish college, and she really didn't have a job at the time, and she was living with one of my great aunts at the time. They let her have the attic when I was a baby. She used to like watching the old Spider-Man cartoon. Anyway, but I was reading superhero comic books from 1974 to 1984 after the Phoenix and Jean Grey saga, and then later the Death of Captain Marvel graphic novel had come out. I guess being in the headspace that I was at the time, because I was definitely the biggest nerd you'd ever know, but I was a real true nerd. See, today I think the nerds are kind of dumb. I think a lot of them just read comic books and they just watch sci-fi movies and they call themselves nerds and geeks. Actually, no. When I was young, you were into that stuff, but then you were also reading Shakespeare and Homer, and you were reading, you were reading a lot. Like you were, and you actually like science and stuff like that. And and I took superhero comic books as not only just entertainment, but I looked at it as as literature, just like Shakespeare or whatever. So I didn't think, so as much as I was reading at the time, like Stephen King or Ishmael Reed or even Alice Walker or what have you, like I took comic books just as seriously as I took real literature, right? And so I didn't think Marvel Comics could top itself after the Jean Grey saga and after killing off Captain Marvel, who was one of my favorite comic characters. And I don't regret that I stopped reading those comic books because the two only oldest friends, no, well, sorry, the two only oldest friends, right, that I had, one who still lives in Kansas City, Missouri. He was from my childhood, and the other one from Houston, a woman. um, they, they were the only ones who were still like catching me up every now and then on comic books and what was going on, and I didn't regret it not reading it because I felt like a lot of this shit was getting repetitive and boring. Now, before I had stopped reading the superhero comic books, as I like to call them, the spandex comic books, I always liked the stranger shit that Marvel did. Like, for instance, I like Doctor Strange, like Son of Satan. I liked that was a short-lived comic book. I liked the Marvel concept of the mutant struggle. I liked Marvel's sci-fi world, which meant Captain Marvel and Adam Warlock, Nova, the Kree and the Skrull War. I was into a lot of that stuff. And of course, the one strangest comic that they had all together, which was my favorite, was Howard the Duck. And in 2000, when I was catching up on my in the early 2000s, when I was still in contact with my two older friends, uh, we would shoot the shit after catching up on life or whatever on the phone, and then they would tell me that they both at the same time were telling me that this character Deadpool, who had been around for about 10 years or so prior, would be a character that I would like. So they were telling me that I should look into him. He had this all, he was kind of living in this alternate timeline, but at the same time, he knew all the other mainline Marvel characters, and they retconned him to death. So but they said that I would like him, and they said that in a lot of ways, the humor, the fourth wall breaking, the and all that other stuff, and the inner thoughts in his head were a lot like Howard the Duck, but they hated Howard the Duck and they liked Deadpool. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll check him out. So now this leads me to the movies. I like the first movie, the first Deadpool movie, and yes, the second movie was just as funny. I remember New Possibilities was in the comment section of my last video, the intro to this hangout. And sorry, y'all, just wanted to. My daughter's trying to tell me something. Okay, all right, okay. So all right. Anyway, so the thing is that I knew that the follow up. Oh, sorry. So anyway, what I liked about it, so the pop culture references, all that stuff, they still kept going with, and they still had that going in the second movie. But the way I felt like it was more of the same from the first movie, just more of the same, and it just felt very formulaic. And the first movie, while it did rely on the whole chivalry plot, needing to save the girlfriend, um and the plot device of having him save the girl, and then it had that happy ending. We know that Deadpool permanently had broke up with Vanessa in the comic books, and she appeared again here and there in the comic books as Copycat, who was another a mutate. But there was no happy ending in that romance. In fact, what I liked more about the Deadpool comic character was his slow dive into madness, and his two personalities or split personalities. And I know that they've retconned here and there between his mental illness being sparked by either the cancer or his actual regenerative powers, or both. But either way, those were things that I found very interesting about him. And of course, they did not carry that into the film. So the sequel, it's obvious to me that the movie had the Cable and Deadpool partnership, which was born originally out of them having to kill each other in the comic books. And that was this movie's, device for selling tickets. In the comic books, this was one of the most popular Marvel team ups in years. And so they knew that a follow up to the successful first film had to be about Cable and Deadpool. And the thing was just like, But the thing about that was that it kind of reminded me of the Avengers Infinity War. And I did go out and see that one. And I felt like it relied too heavy on the comic star power. If Cable showed up, then, it would just get us all just satisfied with just that going on and not see a lot of the holes, or at least the holes that were holes for me. While I was laughing and all of that stuff, man, still, it was like, again, I just felt like it was more of the same. Let's see what's going on in the chat if I need to stop. Oh, hey, what's up, Elm City? So anyway, and so I just feel like they were just covering up for lack of plot, just like Infinity War. And they still, in the end of the day, gave you a Hollywood ending. Of course, the reason why I'm being vague about all this stuff is because not everybody has seen this movie, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys. For those who still want to see it. I mean, here you have one of the most interesting characters that I had seen in years, and that's coming from someone who stopped reading superhero comics for 20 years. And while they took things to a gory edge and with the R-rated violence in the first and the second movie, that's pretty much all you had left with the latest movie. I think Deadpool's sense of loss and being lost and increased mental illness, as we had seen in the comic books, kept being put on the back burner in the movies. But really, why are you trying to shield the audience from this? I feel like that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to shield the audience from from this because I guess they felt like it would be alienating people. I don't know who. I mean, the movie had an art rating. Most of the people who are going to see Deadpool are obviously people who know Deadpool and they have read his comics. So you're not really going to be alienating anybody from anything. They just wanted to see him on the big screen. Now, Phoenix had me cracking up in the comment section of my announcement video yesterday, because she was saying how she just felt that Ryan Reynolds was all wrong for the role, period. Um I don't know if I can agree or disagree on that. I feel like this. He, like most stars, I think most movie stars, if they're truly successful, are the ones who will try to take every bit of responsibility that they can take to move their careers along. And I think that he knew the popularity of Deadpool. He knew that he could do it, and he did everything he could to make sure that he would be the one to get that role. So when they did the very popular, very viral video, a couple of years before the first film had come out, yeah, I mean, he was a shoe-in to get that role. I don't think I never really cared about him, to be honest with you. Maybe that's where Phoenix is coming from. I never really cared about anything else he's ever done prior. I damn sure didn't look at the Green Lantern movie because that's DC. And if you guys have noticed so far, all I've ever talked about was Marvel in terms of comic books, because that's all I ever wanted to read. I hated DC. So thought that, as a matter of fact, Black Privilege YouTuber, Black Privilege, did a really interesting, hey baby Moscato, what's up? Um, did a really interesting video about how he sees a lot of the Ayn Rand philosophy in Spider-Man. I don't know if I can completely agree with that, but I do know that you see a lot of Ayn Rand's philosophy in a lot of the DC characters. And even when I was a kid, I may not have known the first thing about Ayn Rand, or I certainly would have laughed at the idea of philosophy applied to damn comic books. But I knew that I didn't like DC comic books for the very reason that I understand it now as an adult, because it was I just felt like that world was very reactionary. The heroes were either just, always wanting to take up the mantle of justice because of a dead girlfriend in the dead girlfriend in the icebox kind of thing. And that's the problem that I had with the second movie, man. It's like they relied on so many Hollywood tropes, killing, the killing of somebody that Deadpool cared about, then him wanting to save the life of some kid. Like it, it. I mean, yeah, the thing is that yes, no matter how crazy Deadpool is in the comic books, and no matter how dark shit got in the comic books, yes, Deadpool did have a very strong sense of morality. We do know that actually he got mad at Wolverine at some point for agreeing with the idea of killing Baby Apocalypse. Uh, and when Wade didn't like that idea, and then Wolverine was then informed that Wade, and all the times he ever got paid as a mercenary, he never really cashed the checks. So that was very interesting about Wade. Yes, he had but then that's typical of most of these guys that write comic books. They do have that Sunday school strong sense of right and wrong, black and white moralism that I personally just don't like. It's boring to me. I think that human beings are a little bit more complex than that. The concepts of right and wrong are a little bit more complex than that as well. But they were true to that in the movie. It's just that they just could have done more with it. They just could have done more. And that's what I just got annoyed with the whole thing. And that's why I thought the film just really wasn't that fucking great. Hey Brooklyn, what's up? So yeah, I'm just talking about the Deadpool movie and how and why I didn't like it, and just trying to get to main points as to why I didn't like it. So the thing is,
I'm just talking about this how and why I didn't like it, and just trying to get to main points.
Oh, baby Moscato, what's up? How you doing?
So the thing,
hello.
Hey. You're gonna have to mute your did you do it?
No. Okay, let me see.
Just mute your view screen. You'll be able to hear me. You should be. Do you have like earphones or something on, or? Oh, okay. No, you muted your mic. Okay. No, I meant you just your actual viewing screen where you see the chat room and all that. That's all you have to mute.
Okay, let me see.
Like just you mute YouTube, the actual video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The chat room and all that. That's all you have to mute.
Okay, let me see.
Like just mute YouTube, the actual video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Chat room and all that. That's all you have to mute.
I don't know if I did this right.
Like just mute.
Are you on the phone or are you on the computer?
On my computer.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you hover over the screen, the actual, like if you can see both of our icons and you can see the chat room.
Okay. My computer.
Right. If you hover over it, you'll see the speaker icon.
Okay.
Right. Now just click the speaker icon and that should mute it. No, you I think you mute ugh. I can't talk. You muted your mic is what happened. Uh-oh. All right. So we'll let baby Moscato figure it out. But if you just to let her know, I'm just going to repeat what I just said earlier. So if you're actually looking at the chat room where everybody's talking,
let baby Moscato.
To the left of the chat room, you should see the actual.
Just to let her know what I just
of
said
the hang.
So if you're
and if you look at the bottom,
talking.
Where the volume is, you should be able to mute out
See the
the
actual.
speaker.
Okay.
I think I did it.
Bottom. Where the volume is, you should be able to mute out.
No.
Actual.
Hold on.
Okay.
Or maybe it might take a second to stop.
Where the volume is, you should be able to mute out.
No, it's still doing it. Are you there? Okay. Are you there now? Are you? Oh, okay. All right. So she'll rejoin. The link is in the chat room for everybody in case you want to join in. But anyway, like I was saying, so Brooklyn T Corner said that she liked the first one. Yeah, I did too. And and I did mention earlier that I did like the first one, and the reason why. I knew that it was still relying on a lot of Hollywood tropes and all that, but it was still entertaining enough for me to overlook that. Anyway. So now, which now leads me to just my general complaint about Hollywood movies in, period. And that is that Hollywood just fucks up movies. They ruin our movie experience in this day and age, especially if you're an adult and you're just looking to be entertained and distracted from our otherwise very stressful and uh, lives. But then our lives are stressful the way it is because of capitalism. And and Hollywood is, in fact, after all, it's a capitalist venture. I mean, it's a business, and there are people who work in that industry. Set people, not just the actors and actresses and stuff like that. It's a real industry, and of course, the main reason how they're able to make profit is because they just like that guaranteed win. The guaranteed win, of course, is that it comes at our expense, of our intellect, because what they sell is what they think they can sell, which means more of the same: big explosions, giant robots fighting giant monsters, boring ass romantic storylines that are predictable. Um, Movies that, if they're going to be romantic or dramatic films, it's going to be based on a bestseller. But the bestseller, of course, is usually sold to the same demographic that Hollywood likes to do a lot of their, uh, test groups on. And these are the types of people who shop at malls of America and shit. And don't think that just because you like some of these movies, I'm shaming you or putting anyone down. That's not what I'm about. I mean, there's a lot of mainstream films, obviously, that I go and see. Deadpool being one of them. But I think that, we should be expecting better. I think that we should be looking for more, and we should be expecting better. Baby Moscato, are you back? You don't look
I
like you're muted, and I'm not echoing, so I think you did it right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, excellent. How are you doing?
I'm doing well this evening. I just wanted to
Good.
jump on because I'm not going to talk about Deadpool 2 because I haven't seen it yet.
That's fine. That's fine, because I'm actually off of Deadpool 2 now. I'm just talking about movies, Hollywood in general, and why I think that movies suck so bad out of there. But go ahead.
I wanted to, and I agree with you. I wanted to comment about, or kind of expand on a comment I made in your comment section when you announced this hangout.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there an echo? Because I hear a double conversation on my end.
Oh, okay. No, I don't hear it at
Good.
all.
Okay. I'll just deal with it. So I just wanted to say, remember you mentioned you showed a clip of The Devil's Daughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was probably one of my first horror movies that I ever saw as a child.
Oh, yeah, me too. That was
Yes.
my first two. Yeah.
And there was no reason that I should have been up watching that at all.
My
But
great grandmother was up watching it, and yeah, she helped raise me. She mainly raised me while my mother was working and stuff,
yeah,
right? So yeah, same thing here, man. I mean, I had to have been a toddler or something like that, and I was in the living room laying down, and it was nighttime. And my great grandmother was sitting there watching that damn movie, and she and I wondered if she actually felt some kind of way about it. Like, wow, I can't believe I can't believe my great grandson watched this crazy ass movie.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, but there it was. Wow, that's cool that you
It,
remembered that movie.
what's interesting about it is that for me, is that I remember how precious television used to be or seemed to us because there were only like 3 or 4 major channels.
Exactly.
Right. And so there was no replay. You might be able to see a replay in the summer of something that showed in the fall or the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to plan your time around watching a particular movie or series.
Right.
And I think all of that planning and the slowness of that preparation is what contributed to us getting better television back then.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I never thought about that.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. So when you kind of fast forward to what we are dealing with today, it definitely feels as if the movies they create, and Deadpool 2 sounds like it's one of these scenarios, that the movies they create today are just designed to help showcase the talent more so than tell the narrative and tell us a story,
Right.
right?
Wow.
And
That's an excellent point.
and because of that, I have really and truly grown tired of just television and movies, period. I think I do a lot more reading, and I probably watch a couple of things on Netflix and possibly Amazon Prime, and then I tune out because I miss the narrative, and I miss the idea that the actors are simply props for the story that is more important. Now the actors are more important, and I don't care about the actors. I don't care about their lives after work, and I don't care about seeing them being showcased in the movie. And so I think that could be a lot of that angst you feel about Deadpool
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting you brought that up about the actors. Now, I have certain actors. I think we all have favorite actors, right?
Mhm.
But I think that if there's actors that we like, hopefully it's because of their talent, their pure talent.
Right.
Like, we don't care about how they look. We don't care about if they're if she's if she's attractive, he's attractive. We don't care about that. We might care about, because let's face it, I mean, damn, you really hit the nail on the head about showcasing, the concept of showcasing, either showcasing of a story and not let it be about the narrative, or showcasing of the actors and actresses.
Right.
Because one thing that I noticed, let's face it, Al Pacino would not be in any movies if he were 20 something years old, like if he was a young actor today.
That's correct.
I mean, he's short, excuse me, like they described him as Michael Corleone in the end of the second movie, droopy looking, like
That's right.
he never would have gotten a role. He just was not a leading man, but yet he's an incredible actor. And like, and then like, so you have this thing where, and even then, like back in those days, like Devil's Daughter, as cheesy as it was, but the point about that movie that I liked was that it led up, this all this narrative, strange little things happening to this young woman and her being sucked into this secret weird ass society.
Right.
But the thing is that a film like that, as long as these movies are, but they still move at a pace that is quick, 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 because they don't want people to lose their attention.
That's right.
And in those days, a movie could have been about an hour and 30 minutes long, but it still had to build up to something, and now that building up was narrative.
That's
Um,
right.
so yeah, these are the two things that we're looking at. We're looking at people who aren't really all that talented, but they're taking up everything. I mean, I was just thinking the other day, everybody who was in Star Wars, even though some people would agree that the beginning of the end of where we are with movies now kind of started with, with the Star Wars movies and stuff, but Star Wars had nothing but like unknown actors and one Shakespearean actor,
Mm-hmm.
old guy. It's like none, and let's face it, none of those actors and actresses, probably with the acceptance of Carrie Fisher, if they were here today, none of them really would have gotten hired to do anything. Maybe
That's
Mark
right.
Hamill, maybe, but no way. What's his name? Well, the guy that plays Han Solo. I don't know why
Harrison
my
Ford.
brain.
Harrison
Yeah,
Ford.
Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford may or may not. Well, I don't know. Maybe he would have gotten hired today. Maybe, but my point is that you don't have a big budget film, even though that movie, had a sizable budget for its time.
Right.
You don't have a big budget film and then have a bunch of unknowns. That's unheard of now. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just don't do it. It just ain't gonna happen. So, but thank you so much for that. Like that was really good. What so but go ahead and finish. Like I was just, I mean, go ahead
Yes.
and add on to this because I was just like sitting here thinking about the other day, like another YouTuber friend of mine, Jenny Kiss, like on her
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, she was tweeting 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago,
Yes.
how she just hated movies now. And she was looking for suggestions. I sent her a list of films because the things that I like to look at are art house films and
Yes.
art house films and foreign movies and stuff. And I do know that when I was younger and single, I was looking at those a lot. Now, that's all I was looking at. And then, we had kids. And so you make a compromise. Now, you wind up seeing Lion King, you wind up looking at The Incredibles, which
Right.
I think are the best. I'm only mentioning those because those were the best of those type of movies,
Right.
right?
Right.
I feel like, and then best in terms of they were well written, they had really good talent, voice talent, and actors behind it. And then, of course, you had major dogs, but you find yourself like just dragging you. Well, not real you dragging the kids, them really dragging you to go and see these movies that you normally like. Again, I would never
Would
sit through.
never
I would
see.
never watch.
Mm-hmm.
And you do find this happening in this part of your life, and then you start reevaluating, like, what am I looking at? Like, why? What am I looking at? And then when you
Right.
do try to get your kids to watch stuff like my oldest daughter, like, she loves dramas, she does love
Mm-hmm.
things with narrative and everything, but again, based on her generation, she's looking for a certain kind of pacing. So
Right.
in both times I've tried to get my kids to look at, well, my oldest daughter, I tried to get her to look at The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't happening. It was not happening for her. It was moving way too slow for her.
Right.
She kind of sort of like the first three Star Wars movies. Um, what
See,
else did
with
I
a
try
movie
to
like
get
The
her?
Godfather, you definitely have to understand the character development, right? You have
Yeah.
you have to want to sit there and look at the way Don Corleone address Michael Corleone. You have to understand the nuances of how Annette Bening, who was the
Diane
wife?
Keaton. Diane Keaton.
Diane Keaton, I'm sorry. you have
Yeah.
you have to really pay attention to, like, how Diane Keaton's character became more distraught and more passive as time passed. You have to want to see
Uh-huh.
those little details and appreciate those details and how they contribute to the overall impact of the story, right?
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you and you so it's interesting you would say that, mention them, because once you absorb the characterization of all of those, the narrative, the individual narrative of the characters, then you can start applying that narrative to your life. And that's why when we were growing up, we could appreciate the impact of those types of movies.
Right. Yeah. 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 I agree. I remember what always made me keep going back and watching The Godfather, especially Godfather 2, over and over again, was just the pure, like, to me, for me, it was the pure pleasure of seeing the transformation of Michael Corleone just by itself, because everyone else was set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You knew who, like, you knew who the Godfather was. You knew who Sonny was, like, from start to finish. There was nothing there. I mean, I don't want to say that, like, they were great characters, but my point was is that the whole thing that made you want to watch that movie and keep watching it over and over again,
Right.
for me anyway, was just the transformation of Michael. He goes from being this, hey, I don't want to have nothing to do with my family. This is like, they're killer, they're mobsters, this stuff. And he had this strong sense of morals, and he wants to assimilate because, yes, there too was a time when Italians weren't considered white, just like Jews, but anyway, I want to assimilate. If I can call myself Michael Kerrigan, I will try to do that. Like that whole thing was happening, and then all it took was the near death of his father, and then all of the sudden he becomes this mobster, but he becomes a tragic figure,
Right.
and then, like, what was so amazing about that, and again, like, I don't think we'll ever see anything like that. I could just imagine how vapid The Godfather would have wound up being
Oh,
if
wow.
if it became a modern day movie. And they want to do a reboot. They're going to do a reboot of The Star Is Born, which was not a really good movie. I didn't like it the first
I
one,
didn't either.
but they're actually going to try to do a reboot of that. I don't know why, but
I wish they would leave The Godfather alone. Why would they mess with a classic? Why?
Well, no, I don't know. I shouldn't have. No, I don't think they're going to do a reboot, but I wouldn't be. What I'm saying is, if they did one,
Oh, I see.
it's going to be a piece of shit. Like, you just
Yes.
know it's going to be horrible. But I do know that they've always wanted to do a Godfather 4, where what they wanted to do was do a, like a prequel. So they wanted to have it, originally the idea was Godfather 3 was supposed to have Leonardo play Sonny. It was supposed to be, he was going to be the main like the main focus, but then they went on ahead and they went with what wound up being Godfather 3, which was a piece of shit movie. It was. I didn't like it at all. But hey, I watched it because who didn't want to see what exactly was going to become of Michael Corleone? But then that was the reason why part 2 was so damn good, because it left that open. Like, you knew that he was going to go into a darker place, but they didn't show it. But that was so great about it. But anyway, my point is, I'm sorry I got sidetracked. The thing is that now, like, you just hit the nail on the head. Actually, you say part of what I wanted to say, because I really wasn't going to leave off into anything else other than to go into alternative stuff for people to kind of look at and try to explore into. But I totally missed that element, and that was a good thing that you brought up. Like, it's true, man. Like, we miss out on a lot because everything is really about showcasing and not going into anything deeper.
That's right.
What's up, Phoenix? How you doing?
Hi, Phoenix.
Let's see, in the chat. Let's see, it's Brooklyn. Okay, so Leah CS. I love Leah CS. She says, yes, the storylines are lackluster. Rice, peace, Rice. How you doing? Sorry, y'all, I'm so behind on the chat. So yeah, and if anyone wants to click on the link, it's still up in the chat. If you want to join in, you can. But like I said, I've got about another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So like I was saying, it it, if anyone is thinking about, like, a lot of people are saying, well, what else is there? There's a lot of things. Even though I don't want to ruin it for you and say I do have a different opinion about what's happening with art house and independent films
Mm-hmm.
today, because I do think that, well, thanks to Miramax, I believe that they've gone in a direction that, because I remember growing up in the 80s, right, when I first started watching indie movies, like there was no rules, like you like there was no formula like I mean, you can't top a movie like Eating Raoul, like you just cannot. That
Right.
was one of the weirdest movies ever. And what I liked about what was going on with a lot of indie films in those days was that people just said, oh, there's rules to writing a plot. Fuck that. Like, I don't even think anybody was thinking. That's my point. Like, no one was thinking about that. And then you have people like, well, anyway, the one who created Hairspray, but or
Mm.
Walters,
Mm-hmm.
John Waters. John Waters, like his earlier movies, like nobody, like people were literally just going out, making a movie, had no idea about editing. All they had in their brain, and they certainly didn't have an idea about formula or
Right.
trying to get somebody famous. They just said, I got a movie, I got this weird ass brain, this world that I have in my mind, and I just want to make a movie.
Right.
And now you've got people saying they want to be indie filmmakers, but it's all because they've already gone to film school. They kind of, and then
Right.
surprisingly, you hear some of their ideas for scripts and stuff, and you're like, I don't hear anything different from what Hollywood has already done. Like,
That's
you're
right.
not, beside now, the only thing that I think probably makes things different is that obviously we don't have enough people of color. We do. You are seeing more and more LGBT people being able
Mm-hmm.
to make inroads.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I am looking forward to this movie. Sorry to bother you. If any of y'all are interested, because I think Zazie Beetz is in that one, right? From Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Zazie Beetz is in that one. I'm forgetting who the lead guy. I think he's the other guy from Atlanta, right? Or
I have
I forgot.
I have his picture in my mind. I can't remember his name, but I
Yeah.
picture the face.
Same here. Anyway, I did like. Look, I did like the trailer, and it may be just like all the other, kind of indie slash hybrid Hollywood. It might be that, but hey, I'm gonna give them my money anyway, because one, not enough people of color are in these kinds of
That's
movies.
right.
And I'm gonna support it no matter what. If I do wind up hating it, fine. But I'd rather support it. I'd rather be I'd rather be wrong about it first than be I'd rather be right about it first
Right.
than be wrong about it later, and not have supported it when it
Right.
counted. So um,
And
and that's the thing. Go ahead.
can I add a point to that about not enough people of color?
Yeah,
In
please.
addition to that, there are e- even when there are people of color in these other movies, they try to fit people of color into the same tropes and the same stereotypes as mainstream actors. And I understand that because I guess you're trying to make us more appealing to the masses, but these stories are becoming boring because many of us have all of these we have a plethora of experiences, right? As people of color, as Black people, whatever. I can remember now in my neighborhood growing up that there was a predominantly Black neighborhood with one white family. And that white family had a little girl named Kathy, who was my running dog for years, all the way through to high school.
Huh.
We have a very unique experience,
Right.
right? Growing up in the neighborhood we grew up in, a low income neighborhood in Mississippi.
Wow.
In Mississippi, if under those racial dynamics, but you're not going to see that particular experience in a mainstream movie.
Right.
And if you do, they're going to water it down or put something comical in it or something palpable, or so that people, palatable, so that people can feel good about their place in the world. So we need, not only do we need more people of color, we need more stories that kind of realistically portray how people really are in their lives. And it feels like Hollywood is afraid to go there now.
Everything you just said, I'm sorry, I was just writing in the chat. Everything you said, man, that I'm 100% on. First of all, I would see the movie that you just described from your actual life. Okay. Yeah. I would be like, take my money. Like, and you're right. If they were to take that movie, if they were to take your life as you had just, explained it, like described it to us, and that was supposed to be a movie, you know what they would have done? They would have switched to where the main character would have been the white girl, and you would have been the interesting black side character.
That's right.
That's what they would have done. And then they would have left it as, yes, the last white family in the black community, which, by the way, is interesting you brought that up, because I wonder how many Gen Xers, I think a lot of us have actually grown up, as we grew up in our black neighborhoods. I think a lot of us have actually lived in that same situation where we had the one holdout family. And we all know, like, typically it's of course it was strictly about class, because these were the families who did not have the money or did not have any kind of way of moving out, of being part of the white flight. But being that, in a lot of ways, I think some of those families, and based on maybe my own observation and memories, were sort of transformed by that life experience, because then it was like, okay, one, if we're trying to escape, what are we trying to escape from? Two,
right.
It's obvious that the real issue here about anything is about poverty, because that's who we are.
That's right.
So that's the reason why. So maybe, this really is about class and not about trying to get away from people just because of the color of their skin. And even then, we moved into neighborhoods that really weren't, that we considered better than where a lot of us were actually coming from. That meant we were going from the neighborhoods that black people were supposed to be in, and we considered moving up, which was basically us moving into white working class neighborhoods.
Right.
So right there, that should tell you exactly the sort of class placement of black people.
Right.
Right there, that we were always sort of even at the bottom of the bottom kind of situation. In the chat, Phoenix says, let's just make our own production team. There's all kinds of markets to do well by.
I'm down with that, Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix. And that, because that does remind me of what something that Anita Sarkeesian was saying a while back in one of her videos. It's like, you can be disappointed about someone you actually liked, and then you find out that they were, racist, or they were sexist, or they were this or that. But then the best thing for you to do is to turn around and say, well, let's look up people of color. Let's look up a woman. Let's look up a LGBT person and see what they're actually trying to do, and then try to support that instead of just being, mad. So I agree. Now, I do think that there was, what was that movie? Not a movie, TV show, Chewing Gum. I think it was called Chewing Gum on Netflix.
Yes.
The black girl.
Yes.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, was the one who got me onto that show. I like that show.
Love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And so, yeah, like, while we can definitely talk about that, it's like every now and then we slip through, women, people of color, like, can slip through. And and put something out there, and we just have to support it. Like, because if we don't support it, then we're not going to see more of it.
Right.
You know.
The idea of support, I'm going to tell you, a lot of the support doesn't occur for those types of shows or series because we're losing the ability to think critically.
Yeah.
And to listen critically and to want to read between the lines and want to think about what's put in front of us, think critically about what's put in front of us. And so it takes energy to appreciate a series like Chewing Gum.
Right.
Right? And it also takes a little bit of rigor to appreciate a movie like The Godfather in its original form.
Yeah, exactly.
And this society has done a really good job of kind of breeding our children or our younger generation to not pay attention to those details. And I don't want to sound as if, hey, the older generation is better. I'm just going by what I see, just how I interact with my nieces and nephews. I have to really, I have to kind of like keep them focused on important things and important conversations when we talk about everyday life. I have to really help them hone in on my words, my facial expressions. I want them to be present because so many times they're not. They're looking at their phone. They're thinking about some event that's coming up, but they're not present with us. And that kind of trickles over into how they watch movies.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. That's why, like, when we sit at the table, dinner table, besides the usual stuff that we talk about, like what happened today, then we go into the news, what's been going on, and then movies and TV shows will come up. And so it's very important that we stress, well, what did you think about this?
Right.
And what did you think about that? Rather than, hey, were you just entertained? Oh, I thought it was good. That's great. That's wonderful. Like, we do make it say like, oh, well, you liked it. Good. Well, what did you like about it?
Right.
Oh, was there anything you didn't like about it? And if so, why? So we get that we throw that in. That's like part of, our little house culture or whatever.
Right.
And I think that, and I believe that that's what you're saying, even though you're not specifically talking about, movies or anything like that. But yeah, you're saying, look, okay, have a conversation.
Yes.
Now my wife and I, we were both brought up poor and stuff like that. But I have to say that because her mother was an educator, and I grew up working class. I noticed that there's a difference in between the way we sort of process certain things.
Right.
It's like, as I'm not trying to say I'm smart or whatever, but as I am discerning, but had learned it on my own, like learn that skill set on my own growing up. I noticed that in my adulthood, in my earlier years of parenthood, I wasn't trying to bring that into, the way we were raising our kids.
Yeah.
As much as my wife was. Like, I would kind of sit there and I'd be like, why is she talking to them about everything? Like, what is going on? And then what happened was because a lot of people are shocked when I tell them this, but I didn't go to college until I was 34. Yeah, a lot of people are shocked at that, but because they were like, oh, because like whenever we've had meetings with our kids' teachers when they were really little, and like the principals or whatever would say, oh, where did you study? And I'd be like, oh, I'm currently in school now. And they're like, oh, you're going back to school? I'm like, no, I'm not going back. I'm actually literally a college freshman right now. They're like, really? So, but when I started taking psych courses, right? They started talking about like studies that were done on particularly like immigrant households or female-led households, where it seemed that the culture within that household was stressed. Like there was huge stress on what did you do today?
Right.
How was your day? What did you do? How were you feel? Oh, this happened. Well, how did that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
All of these things that, and I really didn't want to get into gender stuff here, but it's true. All these things that men often dismiss and say, "Oh, that's just what mothers were supposed to do," or that's emotional stuff. But no, that actually they realized that children who had higher IQs grew up in households where talking, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
talking, and real communication one on
Mm-hmm.
one was actually happening a lot.
That's right.
So when I read that, I said, okay, I see where I'm wrong at here. Like I see where I need to be a part of that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also what happens. Now, granted, there are times when I could still kind of tone out and do things, but that's really more my personality than anything else. But I've been getting better at it as
Right.
the years have gone on. But what you're talking about is exactly what helps kids their intellect. That's how that broadens their intellect.
That's right. That helps them kind of piece together sentences and these thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of train them to collect these thoughts and articulate them on multiple levels.
Exactly. Exactly.
And doesn't that go back to my original point that TV, this visual entertainment, had more quality because it was so precious to us? We didn't have DVR. You may have had, we barely had VHS to
Right.
record what you actually saw. When we
Exactly.
saw a movie or a television show, you saw it one time and you didn't see it again for a year, maybe. It may
Uh-huh.
have come on at the rerun in the summertime, but it forced everybody to sit around the television at the same time, stop what you were doing, stop reading, stop talking on the phone, come in from outside, take your shower, eat, sit down, watch television together. And during that time, you had that conversation. You know, one of my best memories are when we watched Roots. Do you
Huh.
remember when Roots came out? I don't know
Oh
how
yeah.
old you were when Roots came out.
Oh, I was probably 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere around there. I
Okay,
know I was in elementary. No, I was in elementary. I wasn't 12 yet. So I was still in elementary school.
okay, so I was probably 8 or 9. Well, I think it was 1977 or 78 when it came out. I remember
Yeah.
my parents saying, picking us up from school early that day to get home, take our baths, eat dinner, wrap our hair up, and then sit down in front of the television so we could all watch Roots together. And it was really
Right.
important at that time for us to watch it together because I remember my dad saying he wanted to make sure what we saw did not upset us too much to go to sleep. And so we had
Right.
like this downtime right after each episode of Roots that night. I think it came on for like 5 nights in a row, I believe. I remember I remember my dad, asking me and my sister, so how do you feel? And do you understand what happened? Do you know who you are? Do you understand why it was important to watch this? And at 7, I could not articulate the emotions that I had. I just had this intense sadness and pain for what I saw. And it was even intensified after my dad explained, oh, this actually happened. And that's why you're here in the United States. So I remember having these conversations with my father and my mom really helped me at an early age begin to kind of rein in my emotions and articulate how I felt and all the various nuances that required.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because we all sat down around the television together and we had that conversation afterwards. And even the next day at breakfast, I remember I couldn't eat my eggs and bacon. I remember that meal I couldn't eat. And that's my favorite breakfast, even today, eggs and bacon. I could not finish my food. I had been crying the night before after watching Roots.
Mm.
And I needed to talk about more about how people could be treated that way, and is it going to happen again to us now, and are they going to come take us and make us slaves? Like my dad had to really reinforce to me that this had already happened, and we're kind of the evolution of what that used to be. It was really intense, but I appreciate that conversation now.
Wow.
And we don't do that the same way now.
No, not at all. First of all, thank you for sharing that, because my experience, we saw it around the same time. It was an event for us too, but my experience was just slightly different. I think that we weren't really talked to about it. It was more like, hey, this thing is happening. It's an all black cast. Let's watch it. And then mainly, my mother was dating this guy at the time, so he was at the house with us at the time. But all he did was just go into all this macho posturing about what he would have done. And it's like, I'm pretty sure there was a lot of braver, more macho men and women on those ships, and they didn't try to fight nobody. It's like they either resisted and got killed, or they said, fuck it, whatever comes, I'm going to try to survive the best way I can. Like, so, shut up. Like, but other than that, nobody was really, like my mother, my great grandmother, like they were sad, but there was no like, hey, what did you guys think about this? What did you think about that? Like that happened again with us. We didn't watch Roots, but of course we had other.
Yeah.
My kids basically just read about it in books and stuff. Like, so we never really watched Roots. We never did,
Right.
even though they've shown it on television plenty of times. If anything, my kids saw Amistad, and they saw movies like that. Now I remember probably the most powerful image for me watching Roots when I was a kid that definitely had me up, because I was up all night until I finally was able to fall asleep. But I think it was just the idea of knowing that there were little kids on because I was a little kid. So, just that feeling of like, these were little kids, and yet they weren't living the lives of little kids like everyone else could be little kids. Like, that was fucked up.
Yes.
I remember being particularly angry when Kizzy, the daughter, was it Kizzy, the daughter of Kunta Kinte,
yes.
right? Yeah. The idea, because at the time, Sandy Duncan, the actress, was the slave master's daughter. I forgot her character's name, but the fact that, it's like they grew up as little kids, but by the time they got older, their lives were completely different.
That's right.
And that was such the bitter reality that Kizzy saw. And then that was I remember just being as angry as Kizzy was when you saw that one real powerful scene where she sees Kunta Kinte, her father's grave, and she goes over, and it was Toby, and she wrote Kunta Kinte as best as she could anyway on the tombstone instead. Right. And it was not just because I felt like she was not just only grieving because her father had died. He died a slave,
Right.
But I think that it was also because not only did he die a slave, but because she grew up as one. And her life was nothing like the so-called childhood best friend that she had. That woman went on to granted, you could definitely argue that she went into her own life of quote unquote, slavery, but gender, definitely, I would never argue against that. But the point here is that her life, she was a free woman. She died a free woman.
Right.
In the end of the day, at least based on the color of her skin.
Right.
Versus Kizzy's father. I couldn't remember if Kizzy actually lived past slavery or not. I can't remember. It's been years ago since I've seen it. But thank you for reminding me of that. Because that was an event. Yeah, you're right. there was no tape, there was no DVD for
Nope.
us to come back to and watch it
It was a
again.
one-time viewing.
One-time viewing, and you had to remember. And I mean, it wasn't that you had to remember. You were going to remember. That was the point. You
Yeah,
were going to remember it because it was that one-time event. That was
that's
very
right.
powerful.
That's
Very
right. School
powerful.
let out early that day. Everybody around the city was trying to get home, and I remember going grocery shopping. Like everything in the town shut down to watch Roots.
Yeah. I think I remember that too. I remember we were talking about it days before and a month before actually, and then I remember coming home. I think yeah, they did let us out early. As a matter of fact, I know they did. Yeah, they did. You're right. I think I remember the principal had announced it over the did we have an intercom? I can't remember. But
Hmm.
my point is I remember the principal was like, we're letting y'all out early. Just, get home, get some rest, get home, watch this movie, watch this show. At least they did it on the first night. I don't think we
Yes,
got out.
yes.
I don't think we got out early on the preceding nights. As a matter of fact, I think everybody was asking that. Ooh, did we get out every night? Because I think was it because it was every night, right? It
It
was
was.
it
It
was
was.
first miniseries of its kind
It
for
was a
that time.
a 5-night series.
Yeah. So wow, thank you for for like making this show better than what was originally planned.
I didn't want to
What
take it
are
off topic. I meant to
you
just come
didn't?
in and jump out because of course I have to be at work by 6.
Yeah, right. No. You didn't bring it off topic because that's
Okay.
exactly in the vein of what I was trying to get to. And you just did a better than what I had already planned because I was about to go off. Off my main book. I had already said my main points today, and
Mhm.
I was about to just go off into a thing. So, before you have to go or
Yeah.
whatever, because you said you have to leave early, and I am gonna cut out pretty soon too. But I do want to know if you can name off the top of your head what are you watching now, and what films have you seen at least this past year that you
Hmm.
actually like and would suggest to everyone else.
Let me see. Because I have significantly cut down on my viewing.
Right.
So I'll say, let me think about that. When I do watch television or Netflix, okay, I don't watch anything on television at all. Okay, I don't watch anything on cable
Right.
because I just gave up on it. When I do turn on Netflix, I am catching up on Bloodline.
Hmm. Okay. I never heard of that one.
Bloodline is probably the closest thing we're going to get to the type of quality storytelling I remember seeing from The Godfather.
Oh.
I'm not saying it's as good. It's not as good as The Godfather, but there are some really delicious character developments in there. I think the series has ended, but and I jump in and jump out because I don't. I'm always so busy, but it has held my interest longer than most series. So that's one I suggest people watch. And the other one, and this is going to sound crazy because this series has been over with for 4 years now, but The Sons of Anarchy.
Huh.
Have you
Yeah. I
seen
never did
Have you
look at
seen The
that
Sons of
one.
Anarchy?
No, not yet. But I've had a lot of people saying, well, dude, since you love the damn Sopranos so much and you liked Breaking Bad, you would probably like Sons of Anarchy. And I was like, oh, I'll think I'll get around to it. And then
I
I
think
just
you should
never
watch
did.
it. I think you would appreciate The Sons of Anarchy.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
third one is, of course, I'm watching Atlanta. I do watch. I'm sorry, I lied. I do. I watch it. That is the only series that I'm watching right now is Atlanta on television. And I'll give you a brief explanation as to why I say you should watch Sons of Anarchy.
Okay, go ahead.
Sons of Anarchy, if you, and I'm not giving away too much of the plot, and for those out there who have watched the Sons of Anarchy, it gives you a very clear, linear depiction of how a pure spirit can be destroyed by circumstances beyond your control. And those circumstances are caused by, loyalty to family, loyalty to a cause, and their own inability to let go for their own functional benefit. To me, even though it's about a subculture that I'll never come in contact with, right? A bunch of working class white men and their wives or girlfriends who ride motorcycles. Now, I do ride motorcycles. I do have a motorcycle.
Yeah, my mother hung out with black bikers when she was younger. But yeah, go ahead.
Yes, so I do ride bikes, but this particular subculture of people, literally live and die by a code that, even though it's admirable, has caused so much wreckage, not only in their lives, but in their children's lives. But they can't stop. They can't stop this moment that all of these events and these activities they engage in leads to. Right? It's a very fatalistic series, and every season that goes by, each person is drawn deeper into this darkness. Even though someone needs to have enough sense to say, let's stop, let's pull away, they can't. And I always gravitate to narratives like that, because to me, I'm always interested in how do we control our emotions as human beings? Like, what does it take to be a successful person in life beyond what we think is obvious? Going to school, going to work, taking care of your family, taking care of yourself, paying your taxes. Those are all the superficial things that we consider as success. But it seems like the deeper levels of success lie in how we control our reaction to the world around us. So whenever I see a movie or a series that delves into that deeply, it catches my attention until the very end. And you appear, Garage, to be the type of person that could appreciate that kind of nuance. I really think you would. I think you would like that show.
Then thank you. You just sold me. You gotta understand. I've had 15 people over the last, because I think the show's had a long run, like 6 years or 8 years. How long did it have a
I think
run?
it's 6 years.
6 years. I've had people in the last 8 years or so telling me, why aren't you watching?
That's right.
You really don't. And that's not like, I mean, these are really smart, these are really smart people, intelligent people. But like I said, it was more like all right, I know I need to catch up on it, but I gotta wait to see where I can, because I think before I think I know why. When it was at the height of its popularity, I think, around the third, fourth season time, I don't think it was in a place where I would have still been in that place of having to download episodes, through other means, as opposed to being able to say find it on Netflix. I don't think it went to Netflix as of yet. So I said I'll wait until then, and then it did, and then I still didn't do it, or I still was probably caught up with other shows at the time, because I know I was caught up with Breaking Bad and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely Breaking Bad. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you are right. That's exactly the kinds of stuff that I'm attracted to. Is the exact kind of stuff I like to watch. So now you sold me. I'm definitely, because I know the entire series is now on Netflix.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I will do that. I will do that.
I'll briefly say Bloodline.
Mhm.
I had to stop watching it because it became so dark that it began to affect me in my regular life. So I stopped watching it for a moment. And
Okay.
I'm about to tune back in and watch it on my free time. But Bloodline is just outright Shakespearean to me. You can the mood of the music in the background. There's always this dark, even in the lighter colored scenes where there's sunlight. There's like a dark haze over the scene. Every single character in this movie is like hurtling towards disaster because again of family loyalty, poor decision making, and the inability to separate emotions from what's good for them. So Bloodline is another one that has been really strong for me. And of course I like Atlanta because um, it's spot on to what's happening in Atlanta today. Every character, every scene is something that I have seen occur in Atlanta before, and it actually comes very close to what I talked about earlier about how even when we have people of color in movies or series, they always try to give us these narratives that match mainstream people's narratives. Atlanta comes very close to moving away from that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have been watching the second season. I watched the entire first season and fell in love with it, and I did a review of it here on this channel about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think I was only able to watch up until I think the road trip that him and his child's mother went on, and then I haven't had a chance to catch up. I was gonna actually catch up to it again
Right.
as soon as possible, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So you know, I am starting to sense that it's a little bit different
It is.
from last season.
Yeah, it is. Of course, the first season was outstanding.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's part of
Um,
the reason why I don't feel too driven to watch. I think that's it. Because if there's something I really, 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 really want to see, I will do it. Like
right, right.
I will just by hook or by crook, I'll find some because I have been busy. Like I'm behind by 2 episodes of Westworld, but
Ah,
Westworld is starting to I don't know, like it's going in places now where I feel like I don't know, man. It's not really grabbing me like it did the first season, you know. And but I feel like I really need to go ahead and finish watching the entire season to get a sense of what's going on because I've been wanting to do. I don't say I want to. I don't think I want to do a review, but I want to talk about the fight for dignity,
hmm,
to fight for someone's for one's humanity, and I kind of wanted to go into a conversation about uh really about prostitution and about uh the exploitation of people
hmm,
and how the very basis of fighting for your against your exploitation is really about fighting for your dignity. And
right.
that theme, and I saw that theme heavily in the first season of Westworld. So,
Mm.
you know,
I've never watched Westworld. I need to start watching more television. I'm missing out on a lot of good shows. I
it's
just
the
don't
good
seem to have
show.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's the thing with me too. But yeah, I mean, I have been I would say this, I have cut down on my television viewing for years, but it's where I make the exceptions is as long as the TV show is really good, the writing is good, and it's exploring certain kind of themes is
Yeah.
when I make an exception. And now it's getting to the point to where obviously people are trying to make really good TV shows. So
Yes.
now you're in this place of being kind of overwhelmed because when it was just 3 or 4 shows that were really good, now it's like 10 or 15.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I really need to go ahead and go to bed now because I have to get up early.
Okay, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm going
Thank
to
you
sign out
so
now.
thank you so much, Baby Moscato. And I want to thank everybody else in the chat. I know I didn't get a chance to read off the chat, but when this gets uploaded, I'll be able to read everything. It looks like new possibilities had showed up in the chat room, everyone's saying, but I didn't see them. Sorry, y'all. It's allergies. I get dry in my throat for some reason. And I don't have any water with me right now. So I don't know what happened to new possibilities. People said he showed up in the chat or they saw him in the chat, but then he disappeared. But I don't see him in here at all. So I'm gonna reach out. I know damn well that he's not I know damn well he's not blocked from here because he just commented on my last video. So I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. And Pure Butterfly Spirit says she saw him comment, then he left. All right. So I want to thank Baby Moscato for really like co-hosting big time on this one. And I want to thank everybody else for showing up. I am going to go ahead and say goodnight at this point before so I can get water and stop coughing. Thank you, everybody. This was great. Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you, Pure Butterfly Spirit, Brooklyn Tea Corner, Rice TV had showed up earlier. There. Let's see. I see. Yeah, I see. New Possibility said Atlanta was excellent. Yes, New Possibility. Atlanta is one of my favorite shows. I just need to finish out the whole season because the first 3 episodes I was not, I was not. I'm not saying they were bad, but they were just, you know, we'll see. We'll see if it gets better. But it's not bad, but I wasn't like, um, let's see. Just want to look in here and see who else. I think that's it. So I just wanted to make sure I thanked everybody in the chat. And I want to thank everyone who came by to say hello. That's strange. This is probably the most thumbs down I've seen. 6 people. Why? How can you possibly hate this conversation that we had? It'd be great. I want you 6 people who thumbs down. And believe me, this is not about my ego or nothing like that. But the 6 people who thumbs down tonight's cast, go ahead and grow a spine. And when this thing finally gets uploaded, why don't you write your little opinions in the comment section? Let us all entertain us all and let us know why you thumbs down. But believe me, it's the most thumbs down I've ever had on any of my hangouts. So look, every now and then it happens. Peace. I want to thank everybody for showing up. This is the Garage Autonomist. I will see you all next Thursday. Peace.